So if you look, you have an email from Linda Higgins, and you can read that prior to our approval of the IEE, EP, and AR today. Last but certainly not least, all of your directors have been very instrumental in helping us with the revision of the various chapters of the procedural manual. And I'm proud to say that we have it completed, and I'd like to acknowledge the people who worked on the various chapters. The Program Advisory Committee has seen a copy at their last meeting. I asked them to review it one more time to make sure that everything is good, and then we'll finalize it next month, and I'll bring you a copy.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Can everybody hear me okay? No, can't hear. I'll use this if you can. Okay, thank you, Susan. So we'll move on into item A3, parking lot review. There is none, which brings us to section B, public comments. We do have some cards submitted. The first one is Sharon Nault.
Good morning. I'm glad Susan had just a moment to speak about the art and writing, and that's what I wanted to speak about as well. So I'll first speak about the CAC member and chairperson of the art and writing. It was the vision that the committee brought forth, working with Susan and working with Karen, made it happen exactly the way we had hoped. They were wonderful. I like to think of myself as not very demanding, but we demanded a lot this time because we had an idea of how we wanted to see it, and we asked for many things to be different and change deadlines. And I know it's going to be more work for you, but will you change the deadline again? And we changed deadlines up until the very last minute. It was wonderful to work with the WESELPA and Karen, and thank you very much. We all appreciate your work in helping us put this on. And now as a parent, I was able to be with 500 people, over 500 people. We had 500 chairs and standing room only for these young people with special needs to be honored in a way that doesn't happen for them a lot. We argue and fight and try to make things happen for our children, but just to be able to sit back and watch them be acknowledged for work and effort that they put forward was amazing. We had speakers and readers, and one little guy I thought was exceptional. He was doing a dance with his class, and he was so proud of himself. He was shaking an egg, part of a dance they were doing about chickens, but he was focused on his dad. And he was shouting out, "Dad, can you see me? Dad, do you see me? Dad, shake the egg with me." And if you look out and you see Dad, and he was cheering for his son, and it was wonderful. So it's wonderful to take a step back from academics for a while and services and just celebrate what was right with the world. So from the parents of our districts, thank you all for helping us to make that happen.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next public comment. That's Vita Loop.
Yes, I wanted to bring up an issue that I've brought to this committee in the past regarding Public Records Act request and WESELPA's response, which I believe to be inadequate. On October 12, 2016, I came to this committee to request compliance complaints and the findings by CDE. Most of you may recall that. On October 18, 2016, I received a letter from Karen requesting an extension. At no time did she ask for clarification. The last time I was here, I commented that I still had not received the records. Karen claimed she had sent me a notice that they were ready, but I never received such notice. Only a portion of the records were provided last time I was here. And I let Karen know that the actual complaints filed by the parents had not been provided. Yet she sent me a letter stating that I had received all the records. So I had to send another letter restating that I had not received the compliance complaints. I then received a letter erroneously stating that the request was made in March 2017, which it was not, because it was in the minutes of the October meeting. Susan Bobbitt requested then another extension. I was finally notified that the records would be available after April 21st. This is unacceptable. Susan Bobbitt is listed as the responsible official in this agency for providing public records. October to April is completely unacceptable, and she should be held accountable for her failure to comply with the Public Records Act. On another topic, WESELPA, as I mentioned earlier, was listed as a supporting organization for AB 312. Susan had not come to this committee as of 4/26, so now, after the fact, she's going to seek approval from you in a later item, when she already went to the legislature, lobbied with our education dollars, with our special education dollars. She flew to Sacramento to take positions that this agency had not approved. I mean, this is a public agency. WESELPA does not equal Susan Bobbitt. You, as a board, equal WESELPA. Therefore, you need to have a procedure in place for how to take these legislative positions. That's an action, and it needs to happen on the agenda. And that didn't happen. So that was a violation of the Brown Act. Her failure to bring that forward, and she did the same thing she did with Fontana Unified School District, where she asked you for permission after she had already gone to Fontana, and after Fontana had already told her that they would not be interested in joining the WESELPA. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martina Ortega.
Hi, Sharon, thank you for those comments. If anybody knows me, I have often said the art and writing contest is the only nice thing WESELPA does for our children with special needs. And by that, I mean the only nice thing. On the resolution on E10, funding for children with disabilities, that resolution that you will be approving today means nothing. Your votes as superintendents mean nothing because once again, WESELPA, Susan Bobbitt, has already been to Sacramento lobbying for most of the points on that resolution. So in other words, once you, the superintendents, adopt that resolution, are you going to backdate it so it seems like the superintendents had a seat on the table? We obviously know who is in control. Once again, WESELPA has no students, but the school districts do. Well, I see in my lifetime when you place the student first before administrative salaries for her and for her staff and her personal agenda to fill their pocketbooks. I encourage each one of you to read the report from PPIC. PPIC recommendations do not harm our students with disabilities, but fill pocketbooks for WESELPA and the other SELPAs. In the following meetings that I will be attending here, PAC-FACT, I better not see on the agenda that Bobbitt is going to have a 25% pay increase like I've seen in the past, or as a matter of fact, any outrageous percentage. Me as a taxpayer, I will be looking for that. I better not see that in the near future. And thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Palmer.
Thank you. I provided you with a copy of a Public Records Act request that I made to Ms. Bobbitt, and that was made a month ago on March 29th, and I have had no acknowledgement of receipt of this Public Record Act request, and obviously I haven't had any response to this Public Record Act request. And just as Ms. Luke was sharing about the problem she had with her Public Records Act request, I'm having the same issue, and I'm concerned because my request here is to understand and to get an understanding of what is going on in regards to this Public Policy Institute of California's report. This was a very significant report that was presented to the governor, and because of this report, the governor made a recommendation that the WESELPAs be eliminated so that the money could go directly to the district. It's my contention that the WESELPA is a wasted layer of bureaucracy. It siphons money away from the classrooms, away from our students, that could be used to provide the services that are necessary. I have seen with my own children that them receiving the appropriate services, they are able to be successful, and they are able to be remediated in the disabilities that they have, and to, like I said, my daughter who's a junior will graduate in the top 25% of her class, and she's going on to a 4-year college, and that success has only come at the hands of my advocacy and challenging the district to provide the appropriate services for my daughter. So I would like to see and understand the communications that are going on. Again, as Ms. Liu said, I second that our special education dollars are being spent on lobbying, in essence, against our students, and in a way that does not help our students. So we would like to see those dollars used in ways that provide services to our students instead. So again, I would ask that Ms. Bobbitt be held accountable for her lack of response to the Public Record Act, to understand, the public to understand what is going on in regards to the PPIC report. And the other thing I just wanted to ask, I was confused in your administrator's report when you said the public comments. I'm not sure if you were referring to Linda Higgins' email or if you were referring to a different email. I think you were referring to a different email. And if those are public comments, the public should be privy to them. So I would like a copy of those public comments that were shared with the board. Thank you. So that was Linda Higgins?
Yes, that's what I stated.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. That leads us to section C, discussion items. We do have a card for item C, 1A. Mr. Palmer.
And in regards to item C1A, here we have a situation, looks like, though it is confusing because it says that the funds are being transferred to and from the XPOT and the West End districts. So I'm not clear, is that money, I think it's money going out of the district from attending the FAC meeting, out of the WESELPA back to the districts. And so here we have again this pattern of unused funds, but yet you're asking for more funds. So that's confusing to me. Are you receiving enough money or not? Because here is $51,000 that are going back to the districts in unused funds that were allocated for special ed. And again, my assumption is them coming back to the district, they no longer maintain that allegation. To me, that looks like money laundering. We're going to send money to special ed, earmark it, it's not going to get used, and then it comes back to us and we're free to use it any way we want. That's a concern of mine. That's something that I'm looking into, something I'm following, because it just, to me, looks like money laundering. So I would like to understand better how we can take care of this so that the money can be used for our students. So many times when we're in a meeting, in an IEP meeting, we're asking for help with our children and we're told there's no money. We're told this time and time again. And so when I see money getting sent back that was supposed to be used for special ed not being used, that's concerning to me. And also it would be helpful if it was clear from where the money is going from and to in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. That leads us to C1. Tim?
Thank you. Jumping right into notification A, we have our current year projected state special schools adjustment reimbursement transfer. This transfer is a result of the state requiring that any student attending a state special school, the district of residence, pay for a portion of the excess annual cost of educating that student. The state, in turn, withholds that money from district's principal apportionment, and our fiscal allocation plan says that our XPOT will reimburse districts for the amount being withheld. In this case, it's going to be $51,618 transferred from the XSpot to Chafee and Chino. It is a projection at this point, and the state will adjust it sometime next year with the final number. Any questions on notification A before I move on to B? Thank you. Notification B comes from our county internal business department. It's just a projection of what county preschool facility costs will look like for the 2017-18 school year. Their projection is $341,992, which will be distributed proportionately amongst districts with preschool students attending Live Oak, Mulberry, and La Frost preschool facilities. I do have all the next 5 or so items. I don't know if you just want me to carry on into those items.
I'll just ask if there's questions from the council. Any questions for C1? Thank you. That leads us to C2. Tim?
Okay. You have our most recent projection of our mental health distribution model for the 2016-17 school year. We haven't done one of these since October, so I'll go ahead and walk you through our model. You want to flip to the page after the narrative. You can see that in column C, after I receive projected ADA numbers from districts, we estimate the revenue total of $7.9 million. There's a off-the-top expenditure total just below that of $3,930,000. When comparing that expenditure total to what we had in October, it's about $300,000 higher due to increases in residential room and board and counseling expenses. After you take the estimated revenue, subtract the off-the-top expenditures, you're left with a balance to be distributed of $3,977,000. That amount is distributed by ADA in columns F. We then adjust for fee-for-service in columns H, and then a small adjustment for small school protection in column M, leaving districts with what they can expect to receive in column N. Like I mentioned earlier, our off-the-top expenditures were about $300,000 higher, so the amount being distributed to districts in columns N is about $300,000 lower than what we projected in October. Any questions on this item?
I have a question about this.
Sure.
In many places in this agenda, including the XPOT contribution rate, you're building in a 2% cost of living adjustment on salaries. I have a concern about that, given the fact that we cut $1.4 million from our budget, which included basically services for kids, and yet we're getting raises.
For this item, we're actually building in a 3.5% COLA, but you know, that's just a COLA from the county that it's going to be applied automatically probably in June. So I had to build that
into. Is that required?
Yes. Our bargaining agreement with certificated staff is an average of 12 districts. So whenever the districts come to a consensus on with their collective bargaining agreements, then we just take that average.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to justify, given the governor's current proposed budget, and I can tell you we don't build in a cost of living adjustment automatically for our employees, and it's very hard for me to even approve any of this when you're giving raises and yet cutting services. It just seems, I'm philosophically opposed to it.
Were there any other questions, comments? Okay.
Okay, so no questions. We'll move into C3. Tim?
This is our preliminary mental health distribution model for the next school year, 2017-18. The narrative shows the assumptions that we're working with. Obviously, we're using a 9-district SELPA next year. In this case, we're projecting a 2% COLA. Step and column increases to health and welfare, STRS and PERS, and then an indirect rate of 8.89%. Again, it's the same model that we just saw. If you want to flip to the next page, I'll go through it really quickly. First off the bat, I'd like to say that our ADA is projected to be about 1,900 less than what we have for 16-17, so that affects the revenue number since it is ADA based. Again, column C, you can see our estimated revenue and expenditures. The bottom total is $2.5 million being distributed back to districts. You can see that spread out by ADA, columns F. There is no counseling fee for service adjustment because we don't have a counseling fee for service set up for next year. And because of that, there's also no small school protection